How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the Peegs Postgame Live. Indiana falls at Oregon, 73-64 in a game that the Hoosiers allowed to slip away. Another one of those late game. I don't want to say it's a collapse because that seems a little bit too harsh, but they did allow Oregon to score the last 10 points of the game, and the Hoosiers went ice cold late down. They make just 2 of their last 12 shots. And Indiana falls at Oregon. Peegs Post Game Live, Oregon edition. This to me was one of those games that the Hoosiers were. It was going to be a challenge for them to win, but I give them a lot of credit. They hung with the Ducks the entire game. They gave them absolute everything that they could, and they deserve all the credit in the world for that because the Hoosiers. Have been inconsistent at best throughout the entire season, and they came to play in this one. I give them a lot of credit for that. I also thought it was a struggle because of the fact that Indiana gets to the free throw line just 7 times. I know some people on the chat, Drew already says refs were terrible. It's life on the road in the Big Ten. I also thought the refs were not good. They were inconsistent at best. They definitely, it was, I don't think they got screwed by the refs. I won't go that far in this one. What I will say is I think that Indiana could have done a better job of forcing officials' hands. Indiana also has a reputation as being a bit of a whiny team, and that doesn't help. That doesn't help. I'll give you one, the Caden Carlisle play where he made the bucket and then he went down the floor with his hands up in the air. That call I felt could have gone either way. He didn't get it. But after every single call, Indiana's complaining about it pretty hard. When you're talking about Anthony Leal, you're talking about Luke Goody, you're talking about Malik Renew, any of them complain a lot. Could that have played into it? I don't know, but it certainly did not help Indiana's cause that they get to the free throw line just 7 times, which seems odd in a game in which the Hoosiers did the bulk of their damage in the paint. Indiana scores 32 points in the paint, gets to the free throw line 7 times, and just twice in the second half. So I find that to be really, really interesting. 812-393-2600 is our number. Lines are open, and we do have our first caller on the line. So, caller, if I could have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hello?
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. What you got?
I just want to say, I feel like we played really hard tonight, but came up short, especially in the last 2 minutes, which seems like it's been pretty normal for a Mike Woodson coach team. The last 2 minutes seemed rough.
That's one way to put it, yeah. Or again, Oregon finished the game on a 10-0 run and watched an Indiana 1-point lead turn into a 9-point loss.
Right. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say.
All right, well, I appreciate the call. All right, well, that was quick and easy, but, there's some things up pretty simple because of the fact that, hey, man, you know what? This is a team that does not do well late game, and it certainly did in this one. Got another call. Caller, if you have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, KB, it's T-Bone from Fort Wayne calling back in. How you doing,
how
buddy?
you doing?
Good, man. Love the show. Thank you for this platform. A couple things. Ballo catching the ball way out high. I don't understand that. I feel like they got him out of position. He's doing a little handoff deal. Let's get his big body down there where he can do some damage. What do you think?
Well, that's what, for a lot of the season, that's what he's been doing. But I've noticed that when he runs into guys that he doesn't have the size advantage on, that it's a whole different game for him because he doesn't get to set up as low on the block as he does against a lot of other teams. And the Biddle kid wasn't letting Ballo get to where he wanted to go. And it completely changed his game. Ballo finishes with 10 points on 5 of 7 shooting, but I thought he was more quiet in this one than we've seen. A part of it is because I felt he was just uncomfortable on the floor.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, speaking of that, a buddy of mine had him at 10.5. What do you think of these FanDuel, DraftKings things that are so close, man? How do they know?
Oh my God! You know what? It's incredible how they're able to do that. It really is something else. I don't know exactly how they do it, but their ability to get so incredibly close so many times. Years and years ago, I worked for Pro Football Weekly, and Basketball News Magazine was one of them. And they asked, there's a casino out in Vegas that asked me to help them set lines for preseason NBA basketball. And I'm talking about, this was maybe 1998, so it was a long time ago. And I told them, I don't know what to tell you. I that's not something I could come close to helping you with. And they certainly have it down to an absolute science. The amount of times they get it to half a point is really, really extraordinary. And it is really incredible. It's why I don't gamble. I'll bet on the Super Bowl a little bit, but otherwise, no way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in time travel until here recently. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I started doing FanDuel. I thought their out-of-bounds plays underneath, though, tonight were pretty nice. I thought they executed pretty well. What'd you think?
No, I think so, too. And a lot of what I've seen from Indiana over the past couple of weeks is what you wish you would have been able to see the entire season. Because you do see the light coming on. You do see more of those lineups with just one big. And, the announcers talked about it on the broadcast. It really is amazing that it took Mike Woodson getting fired or resigning to decide that what the fans had known since November was the right answer. And it really is incredible to me, but it is good to see these guys playing more as a team as opposed to what we saw earlier in the year.
Yeah. Last thing, and I'll hang up and let somebody else call into your great show. The jerseys, man, I love them. I think Coach Knight would probably be all about them. What do you think? I'll hang up and let you know.
Nope, I don't. I think we don't have to check that. I mentioned this last show that he hated the black football uniforms because he said black was not an Indiana color, and so he didn't like it, and so that was that's why Indiana's black jerseys went away really quickly, because his former player Cam Cameron was the head football coach, and Knight didn't like them, and for years those were just stowed away. Who knows? Probably in Mark Deal's garage, for all we know. But I love the jerseys. I love the uniforms. I like the little alternate look, and I really have no problem with it at all. Looks fantastic. Didn't get the win, but you look good in competing in this one. 812-393-2600. Appreciate the calls here late on a Tuesday night. We got another caller. Caller, if I have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Yeah, this is Jay Long out of Noblesville. How are you?
Hey, Jay, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. I had a couple questions for you. One, tonight, I was pretty impressed by Biddle's performance defensively. Do you think some of the $24 million NIL deal included Rogaine for his hair loss, or how do you feel about that?
No, I think he should take the next step and just be a man about it and shave his head. Because I'll tell you right now, the money that you save on shampoo is amazing. If you could wash your hair with face soap, you're good to go. Look, I'm a guy who has been bald for a long time. I suggest it to everybody. Go ahead and get rid of that hair. It's useless.
See, that's where I'm at. I feel like he's probably got a few kids as well, and I know money needs to be used for that and for just shave the head. So.
But yeah, Biddle was very good defensively and just rattled. And again, I've noticed a trend that when Ballo faces players that are his size, that have a little bit more bulk, he struggles a lot more than he does against just thinner guys with longer arms, they bother him a lot. And I think that's really going to limit his opportunities, when you're talking about playing at a professional level.
Yeah, I agree. You think he's got a chance to go to the NBA or just not really athletically able to make it to that level?
I just think that in today's NBA, that his game maybe won't translate. He could play a lot of different places around this planet. Finding minutes in the NBA might be difficult, but here's the thing. Jeff Rabjohns talks about this all the time, and he's exactly right. It's not about convincing everybody you could play in the NBA. It's about convincing one team to give you a chance. That said, that draft stock isn't exactly sky high because he is he's a big guy, which are a dime a dozen in the NBA, and he's somewhat one-dimensional inside. But I certainly wish him all the luck in the world if he wants to continue playing basketball to be able to find somewhere where he could play because he has a rare set of talent among humans, and hopefully he'll be able to find somewhere to go.
Do you think there's any sort of relation to play like Brian Cardinal or Big Country?
Well, not Cardinal. Cardinal had a little bit of range on him a little bit. Big Country was different in a different NBA too, and Big Country was bigger as well. So and Country had good feet. He had good footwork. So I would say that I don't necessarily agree with that comparison, but again, if you could go out there in the NBA and let's say that Ballo wants to dedicate himself, drops some pounds, but also then focuses on defense and rebounding. I mean, really lock in on defense and rebounding. He's going to have a place in the NBA because every team needs a guy that doesn't need the ball to be effective. And if he could do that, now that takes as much of a physical as a mental mindset switch. If he could do that, then that's you can build on that. You could develop into that over a couple of years.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think last question too. You think Rabjohns should shave his head too?
Rabjohns usually just needs to shave, period.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I see him. I'm like, did you lose your razor again, Jeff? Because he's out there, he's working, doing all of that. So, yeah, you know what? I think that should be the case. If Indiana gets to the Sweet 16 this year, the entire Peegs staff should shave their head. I think that's a great idea. So I'm going to go ahead and credit that to you. If that should happen, everybody should just match up with the Bike Off haircut. I won't say the Bike Off Woodson haircut because he had it first, but and he has a way bigger head than I do. So there's that.
Yeah, you got a good point there. I'm with you.
All right. Did you have anything else?
No, that's it for me. I appreciate it. Thank
All right,
you.
man. No, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Starting off with a couple of excellent calls. I mean, that's it's always helpful, especially on a Tuesday night. I also, for those of you who listen game after game, I obviously sound a lot better today. I'm not dead healthy. I'm not promising I won't have to hit the mute button to stifle a coughing fit, or that you won't hear me just knocking down cough drops like they're bourbon on a Thursday. But I am doing better, and I appreciate all the people who checked on me after the last show. 812-393-2600 is the number. Let's see. Paul says, why is 9 in down stretch while 5 and 20? Oh, okay. Why? So he's asking about why Kanan Carlisle was in the game down the stretch while Renew and Mbako sat so much. Okay, well, let's talk about that. You had Ballo on the floor. Renew was undersized against what Oregon was bringing to the floor. So there's that. You don't want to go with two bigs on the floor at once. And Mbako scored 8 points on 2 of 10 shooting. And in the second half alone was 2 of 6. That's basically why. Because you had guys like Rice that were able to be out there and maybe be a little more effective with his quickness. So I think that Paul, is why Carlisle was on the floor instead of Mbako and Renew, who still got his opportunities, but Renew wasn't all that strong tonight either. And we'll go through the stats here in just a second, but Indiana shot just 40% from the floor overall, but Oregon only shot 39.3%, and that's one thing that we can't overlook. Yeah, it's a 9-point loss, but I also believe that this was one of the better defensive performances that I've seen from IU in some time. They did a really nice job of being disruptive tonight and playing just tighter defense. Think about what we've seen at times this year with this ball club and how not engaged they've been when it comes to their defensive game. And right now, I feel that they're playing as well as they can. Part of that has to do with the influence of Anthony Leal. I really believe that. He's out there doing more with less than anybody else on that floor, and he's making plays that impact games without the ball in his hand. And that is extremely important. Got another caller. If I could have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, what's up, Ken? This is G-Man from Tri-Lakes again, calling in. Called in a couple weeks ago and just noticed a couple things tonight to follow up kind of on your box score. As I look through the box score, I mean, it looks, like both teams were relatively even. But the one thing I noticed, there's two things that stand out to me. Number one, from the beginning of the game, I thought our defensive rebounding lacked intensity. I thought they got way too many second chance opportunities. As I look at the box score, it looks like we got out rebounded 43-36.
Yep.
I think that's one of the tails of the tape. And then the second thing to me is the deferring of good shots. We passed up good shots for okay shots. I think Mbako took some ill-advised shots. I think Rice took some ill-advised shots. I think their percentages speak to that. And I think there were times when the ball didn't move when it should have, and then there were times when the ball shouldn't have moved. Somebody should have just shot the ball, and it felt like we were deferring. Did you notice some of those types of things as you were watching the game with your expertise?
Oh, for sure.
Or is that just kind of my layperson knowledge?
No, for sure. There were times that Indiana earlier in the season would settle for an open shot, even if it wasn't a good shot. And those aren't always the same thing. In this game, I did see them maybe pass up some open looks that they could have had to try to find a better shot and settle for an okay shot. I think that they were working a little bit harder to try to maybe get a better shot and then ran out of time or ran out of space and got kind of caught up a little bit. So there's that. Again, it's that inconsistency that comes up from time to time. And you also mentioned the rebounding. Indiana was outscored 23-13 in second chance points. And that's part of this equation of this loss too.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the second chance opportunities where balls got kicked out for 3-point plays, especially that quick guard that Oregon had. I mean, there were so many daggers that guy hit. I mean, you think about the last three, right? I won't forget that for a long time. He's 40 feet out and drains one with Leal closing out on a good closeout. I can't fault Anthony Leal on that, but again, I just didn't feel like the rebounding was there, particularly defensively. The intensity just wasn't there.
Yeah, and looking at the second half, it wasn't that bad, but Oregon out-rebounds Indiana 20-17 in the second half, in a game that's close, so those little things matter.
Okay, here's the second thing I wanted to talk to you about. From our first call, I think you remember I'm kind of obsessed with the men's Big Ten basketball tournament simulator.
Yes.
It appears that there is a very good chance that the Hoosiers could play Oregon again.
Right.
In the early game on Thursday, noon tip. Is there a silver lining in this? The old adage, you can't beat a team 3 times in a year, but here we are. We've lost this game. What can we learn? What do you again, your expertise, you're so smart at this stuff, Ken. What can we learn going into the Big Ten tournament that we can improve upon tonight on kind of a quick turnaround, obviously, for next week?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess playing so soon afterwards gives you that opportunity to Here comes my first cough I have here. It gives you the opportunity, I think, to make a quick adjustment on things because they're still so fresh in your mind. And Indiana, I think, would probably like to really make it a point to get Balo going earlier, to get him to really attack the basket. And the Hoosiers as a group attack the basket to try to get the Biddle kid in foul trouble and get him out of the lineup to allow Balo to be more effective. Because, again, he really struggles with guys his size. Now, that said, there are some built-in things that are going to give Indiana problems with this Oregon team no matter what, and that has to do with their length. You know, the Bamba kid, really, really long. Biddle, long. A lot of these guys were long, and when you throw in the fact that Indiana has good quick guards in Kanan Carlisle and Miles Rice, but those guys also have their very inherent flaws as well. You want to run with them and use their quickness, but that can come at a trade-off of times of just decisions with the ball. So to me, it would be we're going to work everything out to try to get Oregon in foul trouble early, and that means going inside and pounding the ball inside and trying to get those bigs in trouble. That's where I would start if I were Mike Woodson.
All right, last thought, and then I'll let you go. Ken, I can't help but notice this is the first time with me watching the Peegs postgame podcast. You've got a bright royal blue shirt on.
Nope, it's purple. It's purple. This is just bad lighting. It's purple because this was I sponsored my son's youth basketball team, and we were the Bike Off Kings. This is purple, I promise you.
Ooh, I was going to give you a hard time because that looks like Kentucky blue.
Oh God, no,
on my TV.
no.
And I was going to tell you, like, you need to talk to Rabby about getting you a crimson shirt because
nope.
Holy cow, we can't have you being a part of Big Blue Nation, Ken.
Jesus, no. This is purple. It is Northwestern purple is what it really is. But it was purple for we were the Kings, basically the Sacramento Kings colors, and so that's why this shirt is purple. Yeah.
Now, hey, you're talking about Northwestern here. Don't start endorsing Chris Collins for the next coach of IU.
Nope,
here.
That's not my guy either. Nope, but this is the one podcast shirt I got. So
I appreciate you taking my jab here at the end in good stride. I appreciate that. I had to give you a hard time because it looked blue, and obviously we need to get you all the crimson we can get you.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the call.
Always.
812-393-2600 is the number. We got a lot of calls waiting for us. I'll go ahead and call her, give your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, Ken, this is Scott, your fellow region rat living out in Arizona.
Very nice.
I thought maybe the shirt was Merrillville purple.
There you go. We could do that. I'm all for that.
We can do that.
It could be Maryville purple. There you go. Go Pirates right there.
Anyway, watching the game, you probably heard me yelling at my television because we seem to always wanting to be shooting the three. Ball would get into Ballo, and he would just sit there and hold it, waiting for the double team to come to him instead of just getting the ball and turning around and just taking it to the hole right in front of Biddle. And so he gets the ball, and I'm like, take him already, take him. And they just kind of insisted on trying to get it past the arc to shoot the shot instead of having to have a couple of times that you just go ahead and take it to the hole down deep instead of going for the three every single time.
I hear what you're saying. I think a bigger issue there was not an issue, but the strategy there was they knew that Oregon was going to double them. And so what you do as a big, you have the ball, you're dealing with a guy that's your size, so you don't have that size advantage. So you can wait until that double team comes and then pass out of that double team and get an open look versus maybe a contested shot in the paint. That doesn't mean that shot has to come from 3, you could have a situation where you get doubled, you pass the ball out, a guy drives to the bucket. You have that. So, but if Oregon then rotates the way that they're supposed to, then your only option might be a 3. So I understand where you're coming from. And yeah, you do want to see that happen. And I bet you that if Indiana plays Oregon in the Big Ten tournament, you try to see that or Balo go a lot quicker instead of waiting for that double team to come. He wanted him to take care of the ball, but also it's drawing a defender away from the perimeter. That is some of the strategy that's involved there.
Yeah. I think I agree with you completely. I just think you have to take it to the hole
Sure.
at least a couple of times. Even if it doesn't quite work out, you got to do it just to have a change in the pacing of your offensive set right there.
Well, and you can't be, Balo plays 30 minutes and did not get to the free throw line. And part of that was instead of being aggressive and going to the rim in those situations, he was passing out of the double team and waiting for the double team to come.
Right. Exactly. So, no, that's what I was thinking. That's why, like I said, I was yelling that through my television throughout the game, throughout the second half. So, hopefully you're right. Hopefully they'll do it better come next time. So.
But on the bright side, you do live in Arizona, so you can wander outside into the nice warmth. And if I could live anywhere here that wasn't Key West, it would be at Arizona. It would be Arizona.
Hey, I got a spot for you. We got a rental house here that I can be happy to let you have.
Hey, there were years ago that I got laid off from a job and could go to work anywhere, and I was going to go to Arizona. That's where I decided I was going to apply for jobs. And the thing that kept me from doing it was I had just met this girl that felt something was good with her, and now 25 years later, she's upstairs sleeping. So that worked out for me.
Well, hey, maybe next time you can come out here. And then when you do, you can let me know. We'll have a beer somewhere.
That would be fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Oh, also, I was going to say, glad you're sounding better.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot better today, and hopefully it'll be back to normal again. I haven't had a coughing fit, which is good because my ribs were all sore even earlier today.
I understand. Hey, have a great day, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. 812-393-2600 is the number. We got another caller who's been hanging on for a long time. Let me get to him right now. Caller, have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Yeah, this is Tom out of Avila area. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, pretty good. A little out of the box question tonight. Do you think some of the energy from Trump and the State of the Union was kind of like IU and Oregon tonight? Just, energy that maybe Oregon had defensively versus IU?
You were listening the other night, I think, when the guy was asking about Trump-Zelensky energy.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I know who that is. Yeah. So we're kind of in the same circles.
Okay. Well, did you have anything basketball to talk about?
Yeah, I guess more specifically with Oregon, do you think long-term program for them for recruiting is going to increase with Big Ten exposure? Just, different type of league they're in now versus what they were doing before?
For sure. The challenge for these teams that are on the West Coast, to me, is that the travel that's involved for almost all of their games is just brutal. It's really, really brutal. It's a lot of travel that goes into these guys. So if you're going to that school, that has to be part of the equation. Do you want to travel and spend as much time on planes as they will? Obviously, NIL money is going to make a difference. Revenue sharing in the Big Ten is part of the equation, and every sport that they're involved with is going to be, part of that equation. Yeah, you get to play Washington and USC and and UCLA, but it does factor into it. Now that said, the Big Ten is the Big Ten, and so there is absolutely a chance for Oregon to kind of raise its profile a little bit and not just be kind of tucked into the corner of the country, because they're going to be a much bigger presence because they aren't always playing late games like they did when they were in the Pac-10 or Pac-12. And being able to build on that will take time. Dana Altman also is a damn good coach, and he's going to make the most of what he has out there as well. One thing I'm checking right now, Dana Altman is 66 years old. So some turnover at Oregon is probably coming, in the next 5-6 years. So the real question to me is that program going to be able to maintain its level of success once you go through that coaching transition whenever it comes? And also, admittedly, look, the college landscape could look drastically different in the next 5 or 6 years. But it's a great question. It's something to watch.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and I think that turnover probably will happen in the next 4 or 5 years. So it's a very good, astute observation.
It's part of the equation. That's one of the reasons why people talk about Greg McDermott being a candidate at IU. I'm not wild about that because I don't want a guy who's 60 plus. Because you don't want to have to go through this, again, anytime relatively soon. That's the one thing that doesn't. I won't use the word bothers me when it comes to Kurt Signetti, but his age is something that you have to be successful right now, because that long term shelf life for a coach isn't necessarily part of the equation when you're talking about, by long term, I'm talking about 15 years or so.
Right. I think he'd be a good mentor for Mark Few with no DUIs also in that tenure. So
that would be good.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Appreciate the call. Thanks so much. 812-393-2600 is the number. Get to the box score here in just a few minutes, but I'm going to also go to our next caller because, again, it's 11:45. People got to work in the morning, so I want to get to them, and I appreciate you giving me a call. Caller, if I have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, this is Andrew, and I'm from Crown Point, Indiana.
Ooh, I know where Crown Point is. I'm from Maryville.
Region Rats, right?
Hell yeah.
All right, so I had a question for you. I've got some friends and I were looking at maybe going down to Indianapolis and for the Big Ten tournament, and we were wondering, are you or any of the Peegs crew going to be bellied up at any bars anywhere? Is there anywhere where the IU crew is going to be meeting up where we could hang out? Do you know if there's anything being arranged for the Big Ten tournament at this point?
We haven't talked about that. And basically it's because we weren't sure about where the when they were going to play, and that plays into it a lot. But certainly that's something that we might be able to talk about or figure out. But that isn't something that we've been discussing, simply because we've been these games are off on the West Coast. We've been focusing on the coaching search. You have spring football starting up, and so that has not been on our radar. But I appreciate you bringing it up and putting it on our radar, because I guarantee I'll go ahead and I'll mention it to them about that possibility.
Yeah, I had some good friends that were in the Bahamas and got to hang out with Trevor and Rabby, and I don't think you were in the Bahamas. I get where Peegs maybe doesn't pay for you to go to the Bahamas, but they at least pay for you to get to the Big Ten tournament, Ken, because you're a huge part of what Peegs does, and I can't tell you how much I love this podcast after every game. It's such a great asset. I want you to know you're really important to this, and I'm hoping that maybe you'll be in Indianapolis for the Big Ten tournament. Is that on your radar at least?
Well, at the very, I did not put in for a credential because there's a limited numbers of those, and so for actually covering the games, you want Rabby and Jared and Trevor to be able to do it, but that doesn't mean that we can't figure out some kind of place to do the call-in after the game. And do some live audience stuff, because that's something that I love doing at football games. And so, yeah, I appreciate that. Again, that hasn't even really been on my radar, man. We've been going game by game, and there's been so much other stuff going on. But I appreciate you bringing it up, and I'll see what I can do.
Well, I'll tell you, as soon as you get it figured out, I think you need to put it out there for all the fans to know, because I think doing this in a live format, if you could go to like Howl at the Moon or one of the bars downtown Indianapolis, and
right,
obviously Indiana has a great fan base, and obviously being right in our wheelhouse, boy, I would think that you would just have a slew of people show up for that. Might be your best episode ever, Ken, because
I mean, again, live and in person, maybe we could even get some special guests there. I think this podcast could really, really cook in a live setting like that, Ken. I think you'd be really good at it.
Well,
So,
I appreciate that.
As soon as you know more, we want to know about it. I promise we'll be there. Again, me and all my buddies from Crown Point, we'll be making the trip down. So we'd love to know where you're going to be, what restaurant, what bar, even if it's like the hotel bar, hotel lobby, where you're staying. Like, we want to know all the details.
All right, I appreciate it, and I'll let you know.
All right, and I promise I'm not a Ken stan, okay? I promise that.
Hell, my wife isn't a Ken stan, so that's fine. So I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care, Ken.
Take care. 812-393-2600 is the number. You have, let me go over some of the I haven't checked the chat in forever. Oh boy. Here we go. Okay. Sorry about that. On the chat, I've been answering these calls, which is why we're here, right? That's the whole point of this, is to hear from them. Okay. Troika says only 3 guys shot free throws, not aggressive enough, and we can't draw fouls. That's life on the road in the Big Ten. It's not fair, but here we are. Some of the shot selection really sucked. We're reverting back to our norm. Yes and no. I felt that some of those shots were forced. Some of them had to do with what Oregon was making available to Indiana, because they were struggling to get inside at times, but it was inconsistency. That's what we're talking about. Lynn says tough loss, anyone's game till the end. Shellstad's 3 was a dagger. It sure was. Rest, regroup, and take pride on senior day. Game against Ohio State could be a play-in game for one of the last spots. That game on Saturday is going to be really, really interesting because, again, Ohio State, Indiana beat them by 1 at their place in overtime, choked on a 10-point lead. That wasn't a game in which Indiana was dominant in. Ohio State gave them everything that they could handle. So that is not a gimme game, especially with the way this team has been up and down over the years. Dave Nergy, the great Dave Nergy, who hosts me for the football post-game shows at Memorial Stadium, says Indiana needs a reliable point guard who we could trust to make good decisions with the ball at the end of the game. Neither Galloway nor Rice are that player. Too many turnovers in crunch time. That's the disappointment for me for Miles Rice this year, is I thought that he would be that steady point guard who could also score a little bit. And that hasn't been the case. Galloway could put together some assists, but for a guy who's played as much basketball as he has, he's also can do some stupid things with the ball and make mistakes that he should not be making. And so that is part of the equation. And you just don't have a point guard where you look at him and you're like, okay, the ball is in his hands at the end of a game. You know that he's going to be able to deliver or make good decisions with the ball. It gets too frantic at times. And you don't have, a point guard that it can take control of the game by being that rudder that a team needs. That's part of the equation as well. Dean says, I'm sure free throw difference didn't have anything to do with it. Again, Indiana shot 7 free throws, went 3 of 7 from free throw line. Oregon went 19 of 21. Life on the road in the Big Ten. That's part of it. It's the fouls you don't call that are as important as the ones that you do. Let's look over some of the stats in this one. Indiana, again, 73-64 loss. Oh, before we get to that, let me go ahead and bring up another caller. Caller, have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Yeah, hey, how's it going? This is Bill from Blue Lake. How are you?
Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Hey, good. You mentioned spring football, not to go off topic, but once basketball's over, you ever get out, do any fishing or anything, a morel hunt?
You know what? I've never gone morel hunting because I've never gone mushroom hunting at all. And there's no doubt I'd either end up dead or high as a kite, one of the two. I would not know which ones to pick if I needed to. So that is,
Yeah.
so that's not it. Fishing I'll do
Gotcha.
every now and again, yeah.
I got a few buddies of mine. We're down near Santa Claus. We head up north. Big Bobby Knight fans, obviously. I know he's a big fisherman and hunter and stuff. So we get kind of into that. Didn't know if you ever joined up with some of the gang after the season and stuff. So, yeah, just was curious if you wanted to join. So
I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Let me know.
Okay, yeah, we'll do.
Okay, thanks a lot. How about that? You guys are the best. That's very exciting. Get asked to go fishing. I'm all about that, for sure. Let's talk about some of the stats in this one. And Indiana's 73-64 loss. I'll keep monitoring, too. We never did get Mike Woodson press conference after the game the other day. I know that, and this was a topic of conversation on the Peegs message board about the fact that we didn't have anybody out covering either the Washington game or the Oregon game live at the arena. I'm not going to, we have a ton of coverage of these games. And so we don't have anybody live on site because there's also a pretty gigantic travel cost that goes with going out to cover these games. And so for 2 games, we could cover it from a distance and be in good shape. So I don't believe we're going to hear from Mike Woodson today. We'll see if I'm able to get some kind of audio along the way, but that remains to be seen. One thing that I did want to talk about, though, is just the numbers here for today. Indiana was led by Trey Galloway, 16 points on 7 of 14 shooting, went 2 of 4 from three-point range. Didn't get to the free throw line, though, and that's interesting in and of itself. 3 rebounds, 4 assists, but 3 turnovers. 31 minutes, he was -3 on the day. Umar Ballo, 10 points on 5 of 7 shooting. Didn't get to the free throw line. 12 rebounds. So it was effective with that. Just 2 turnovers, had a block and a steal in 30 minutes. You had Mackenzie Mbako, 8 points, 2 of 10 shooting, 2 of 5 from three-point range. The only starter to get to the free throw line was Mackenzie Mbako. Added 5 rebounds and an assist and a block, played 20 minutes, was -8 on the day. Luke Goody, 6 points on 2 of 6 shooting. Both of those were 3-pointers that he made, 1 in each half. And he adds 2 rebounds and had 2 steals in 26 minutes. He led the team at -13. Anthony Leal, 4 points on 2 of 2 shooting, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover, 2 steals, -6 in 23 minutes. Leal was really good defensively, though. And even though that -6 is there, he was really good defensively. Off the bench, Malik Renew, 8 points on 4 of 12 shooting. Missed all 3 of his free throw attempts. He added 6 rebounds and 3 blocks in 27 minutes. Kanan Carlisle, 8 points on 3 of 7 shooting, 2 of 5 from three-point range. Adds a couple of rebounds in 17 minutes. And rounding out the guys who played, Miles Rice, 4 points on 1 of 7 shooting, 1 of 5 from three-point range. Adds 1 rebound, 4 assists versus 2 turnovers in 26 minutes, and was -4 on the day. Renew, his lack of scoring was a bit disappointing. He struggled with Oregon's length and also the fact that he was slow to recognize double teams when they were coming. And I know some people are pissed about the lack of whistles that he got, especially at times when he was trying to squeeze through defenders. And then, to me, if you're squeezing through defenders, you are also creating that contact. And so I see it called all the time, both ways. But if you don't get a call in that situation, you're trying to squeeze through to move those guys out of the way. You have to move them out of the way. I don't get as upset about those non-calls as you have out there. But you did have just 3 players in the lineup who shot free throws, and that really stands out in this one. especially when you're talking about scoring 32 points in the paint. The Hoosiers with 15 assists on 26 made baskets, had 10 turnovers on the night. Oregon walks off with a 9-point win, all of that coming in the last minute and a half because the Hoosiers, Oregon finished the season on finished the game on a 10-0 run to close out the game. So that is your margin of victory. Indiana scores 32 points in each half. And you just had better balance from Oregon. Shellstad had 17 points and 5 of 13 shooting. Bamba had 13 points. Biddle had 14 points. Biddle had 14 points on just 3 of 10 shooting. And he went to the free throw line 8 times. You see that with Ballo, 10 points on 5 of 7 shooting. You see that difference that's there. And some of that is being on the road. Some of that is being what Indiana was doing in terms of the double teams coming and him passing out of it. Bottom line is Indiana, Oregon ended up getting to the free throw line a hell of a lot more. 17 times in the second half versus just 2 for the Hoosiers. And that tells a story. 812-393-2600 is the number. We got another caller. Call it for have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Yeah, hey, KB, it's Kimmel from Andrews. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How you doing?
Question. I'm great. I thought the boys fought hard tonight. Can't complain with that. On the road, victory's hard to come by. If we could talk a little bit about who you think's got that best chance coming up. I've read Inside the Hall. They're breaking down, coaching candidates from Brownell, the fella out there at Arizona, Chris Beard. Who do you think got the best chance? I'm gonna call up or hang up and let you talk.
All right, I appreciate
your inside information. Let me go. Thanks for your show.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. This coaching search, I give Indiana a ton of credit, and I give Scott Dolson and the whole group a ton of credit because they have been very tight-lipped about it. But you know what? You have to be when you're talking about hiring coach that's currently coaching. He has a job. So you don't want the rumor mill to pick up too much. I think Scott Drew is going to be a very important name that is going to be there, especially with Brad Stevens and Dusty May kind of out of the picture. There's that. Mick Cronin is another guy that there's a lot of chatter about. Buzz Williams, I think, is on another tier, down a little bit lower than that, along with Brad Brownell. Again, Greg McDermott's name gets mentioned. That name is one that, again, just because of the age, is what is something that really gives me pause. Because you want a guy that's going to be a little bit younger, a little bit more energetic, more ready to hit the road and work hard on the recruiting trail. It would be quite a change from what we've seen from our current head coach. A guy like you hear things about Grant McCaslin and a lot of different guys. Chris Beard, I feel, is just a non-starter. Again, you could look at the baggage that he has, any way you want to. At Indiana, if you have to deal with that at all, I feel like you are going to shy away from that. You're going to shy away from it. Because if we're starting fresh, we don't want to start with a yeah, but. That's what happened with Kelvin Sampson. And it's certainly a apples and oranges situation, but baggage is baggage. And so that to me is going to be a big part of it. This is going to stretch out for a little while longer because hopefully if you are IU, you want your next coach to be coaching for a while in the NCAA tournament before you make the move. So we will see how this all works out. Stick with Peegs.com for any kind of news that may crop up. I'll tell you right now, this is an Indiana program and an Indiana athletic department that is as tight-lipped as I have seen them about this kind of stuff. So that is the right way to do it. So I'm not going to complain about it at all. 812-393-2600 is the number as we have crossed the midnight hour, and it is now Wednesday morning here in the home studio here in Ellettsville, Indiana, just outside of Bloomington. I've already been invited to go hunting mushrooms and fishing, so that's exciting. Been asked about bar plans for the Big Ten tournament. That is exciting. It's been a good show so far. But I know people have to work in the morning as well. And I can feel coughs coming on, so I might be wrapping this up very shortly. But the question is, now what for Indiana against Ohio State in their next outing? That to me is the question. As I see on the chat, Timbo Slice, which great screen name by the way, just got done watching the game on DVR. I'm dead inside. Hey, welcome to me in 2015. So there's when nothing really gets me fired up anymore, because they've done that. It is the disappointment is hard. It's hard. At all. I just this team, you see moments when they play how they could have been playing all year long and playing with the kind of aggressiveness and energy. And then there are stretches when they don't. This today wasn't as egregious as we've seen in the past. And I do think Indiana's movement on offense has been better in the past couple of weeks, basically since Woodson made that the decision was made on Woodson. This team has moved different offensively than we have seen earlier in the year, where you would watch them for a possession and just think, what the hell was that? You're seeing a lot fewer early shot clock shots. Indiana's running what feels like a far more organized attack than it previously has been. And that has allowed Indiana to be competitive. Now you have the last regular season game of the season coming up against Ohio State on Saturday. Tip-off is at 3:45 p.m. at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. A reminder of when Indiana played Ohio State the first time around, it was big games from Luke Goody and Umar Ballo that made the huge difference for the Hoosiers. Goody played 41 minutes in that game, scored 23 points. Ballo had 21 points and 16 rebounds, 4 assists. He was all over the floor. They're going to need that same kind of effort against Ohio State to win on Saturday. This Saturday game is interesting because senior nights tend to be pretty emotional. And certainly this isn't going to be really any different. The key for me on this one is who these seniors are and who's going to be going through this. Umar Ballo is going to be going through it. Trey Galloway for sure. Anthony Leal. Obviously, Gallo and Leal went through it last year. But you're going to have Luke Goody. You're going to have Langdon Hatton going through. A couple of walk-ons as well. So you have a number of guys going through. But of that group that I just talked about, what's the emotional attachment among that group? You've cheered for Goody this year. You've cheered for Umar Ballo this year. But in terms of a long-term emotional attachment, it's Leal and Galloway, and they've already done one speech. So this will be interesting. Then you have Mike Woodson, and this will be his last senior night That's going to be something that will it be an emotional outing? What will the response be when Woodson steps to that microphone? It's going to be interesting, and it's not going to be an easy game, no matter what. That's going to be something to really pay attention to. 812-393-2600 is the number. It's the last call for calls. We do have a caller on the line. Caller, if you give me your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, what's up, Ken? This is Karsten from Pine Valley. How you doing tonight?
Good. Where's Pine Valley?
Oh, up north side of Fort Wayne.
Ah, okay. Only Pine Valley I heard as I think when I was a kid, my grandmother watched a soap opera where I think the town was called Pine Valley. That was the 80s.
Well, it's a real place up here that was probably built in the 80s, north side of Fort Wayne, I'll tell you that.
All right.
Well, I called in for something else, but I think you made a great point as I was sitting here kind of waiting, listening. So if we go back to senior night, last year, you of course had the Galloway Leal speeches, which they kind of go down in history and maybe not in the best way.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of feels like Mike Woodson commandeered senior night a little bit and kind of made it all about himself. And
weird that.
I kind of got to think that we might have a repeat of that, where we've got these guys that have played hard and that we have cheered for, like you said. But I could see very clearly with some of the ego of Mike Woodson that possibly the post-game Ohio State stuff becomes all about Coach Woodson's last game at IU. What do you think about that?
It's a possibility for sure. I mean, he hasn't talked about his resignation yet. It has been he'll talk about it, and when the time is appropriate. Well, we're running out of time for that, unless you're planning a postseason press conference, which would be unusual. So I feel like, if he's going to talk about him stepping away, it is going to be probably in front of a live microphone in front of the whole crowd. I know that Mike Woodson feels like he's done a good job at IU, feels that this is somewhat unfair, more than somewhat unfair, that he's resigning and walking away from the program. He it tells the announcers, you hear it every single game, where they're saying, about how, well, it's not about the basketball stuff. That's not what this resignation is about and all of this. Bottom line is, you signed on saying that you were going to make Indiana competitive for a Big Ten championship, going to be an NCAA tournament team, be competitive deep into the tournament. We don't know what the future holds this year, but to this point, yeah, you've gotten into the tournament, but you've squeaked in a first four situation. You kind of have the same kind of situation coming up this year. If you lose on Saturday, then you're really talking about some troubles there. So to me, it's going to be fascinating to see what he has to say and also see how the players react, because obviously last year we had the true fan situation and some of the comments that Leo and Gallo had. So it's going to be very interesting, to say the least.
Do you think there's any danger in that going terribly wrong based on Mike Woodson's personality, that this could be a bad situation to give him a microphone, or do you think he's professional enough that it'll all be on the up and up?
I don't know. I'll say this. I don't know this for sure, but I am assuming that, as is often the case, that any separation agreement that may exist when coaches leave in these situations, they include you don't trash talk on your way out. You don't badmouth the program. So that's part of it. Plus, I mean, in terms of going bad, I'm not really sure what it is that could go bad and be a problem, because either way, he's walking away. I mean, that is the end of the ultimate end of the story. So I don't think that there's anybody who's watched the program doesn't think, Indiana was being hasty on this thing. And that's kind of the key here.
Well, I think Mike Woodson, like you said, has indicated that he feels like he's done a good job. I think cue up the soundbite here for me. But I think his big thing is he hasn't been able to get him over the.
As the coach,
Give me that soundbite,
I gotta
Ken.
get us over that hump.
Yeah, there he is. I like it, Ken. So I think, again, I think he thinks he's close, and I think a lot of the rest of us don't think he's close, and I think that difference could be where, potentially, differing opinions lead to sometimes some bad things. But I do agree with you. I think Indiana's hopefully professional enough to put something on there where, he's not allowed to say that. Well, I actually called in, though. So it's no secret. I'm a big Chris Beard fan.
Okay.
And I would love nothing more than for Indiana to hire Chris Beard. I think he wins. I think he's great. I do think it would make bigger headlines in Bloomington than it would Austin if we had a situation like what happened at Texas. And I think that would be something to avoid. I certainly understand that. But I also think just the political climate of Indiana just doesn't allow them to hire a guy like Chris Beard. And so if I was going to go number 2, a guy who I don't think is going to let you down, and he just continues to not be named, and it baffles my mind that he's not named. And I understand that we've had a tough situation here, but I don't understand why Steve Alford is just not at the top of the list. He's won everywhere he's gone. I understand he's one of ours, and it didn't work this time, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work again. He's won everywhere. I know he's getting a little bit older, but he's never going to let you down. Doesn't seem like there's any moral issues like Beard. And again, I love Beard. I just think Indiana's too liberal to hire him. But again, if that's the case, then let's go for a guy like Alford. That's actually why I called in. I thought you made some great points about other things. It just boggles my mind why we can't get Alford. Because I think he checks all the boxes.
Okay, so Alford should have been hired by Indiana when they hired Mike Davis to be the permanent head coach. That's when Alford should have been hired as Indiana's head coach.
For sure.
That was a mistake. That was Miles Brand's fault. I want to make that clear. That was Miles Brand's call, and that was a mistake. As much as I like Mike Davis, and as well as I think he did in a real bad situation, that Alford should have been hired at that point. I think the key for Alford has to do with just the fact that at this point he's older. Like you said, we just went the route. I'd have been even fine with Alford the last time that we were going through this a couple of years ago. He's had success along the way, not deep success, but he's had success at times. But he has worn out his welcome at multiple places as well. I just think it's at this point it's the age that's a bigger problem to me than anything else. Plus, him being my all-time favorite IU player, I don't have to go through the struggle of restraining myself from hugging him every time I see him. So there's that too.
Well, Ken, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you doing the call. And, again, I really hope we get the coaching search right. That's why I called in, and
Sure.
I really hope senior night goes right. Again, Coach Knight made some great sound bites at senior night and in Assembly Hall that were unexpected. If Mike Woodson makes an unexpected sound bite, boy, I hope it's positive like Coach Knight's could have been. But, again, that's what I had for tonight. I appreciate you. Have a good evening.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for the call.
Yep.
Yeah, for my little soundboard, I've been trying to find an uncensored version of Knight's poem that I love so much. I love it so much that I actually designed up a photo and had it made that my dad kept in his office for several years. And when my time on Earth is gone and my activities here are past, I want they bury me upside down and my critics can kiss my ass. Love that. I'm looking for the non-bleeped version of that. I'm not a bleeped kind of guy. But Indiana goes to Oregon, finishes out the West Coast road swing 1-1, win over Washington, a very easy win against Oregon, fall by 9 points. The Hoosiers led by as many as 3, and led with a minute and a half to go, and then couldn't clear it out. Hoosiers also deserve a lot of credit, too, because they were able to bounce back from a 9-point deficit in the second half, rather late in the first half, and made this thing competitive. I guess that was early in the second half. Maybe, no. What was that score along the way? Mine's going. It was late in the first half, I believe they were down by 7 and 9 in the first half. Came back. Lose by 9. Move to 18-12 on the season. I feel like 20 wins is really important for the Hoosiers. So beating Ohio State is going to be real critical. And you don't want to have that loss. Indiana's middle of the pack in the Big Ten. So is Ohio State. And that's who is next up on the docket here. But for the time being, Indiana's a couple of days to get ready, recover from that West Coast swing, and get ready to take on the Buckeyes, who sit at 17-13 overall, 9-10 in Big Ten play. And they will present plenty of challenges for the Hoosiers because these are two very, very evenly matched teams. Well, that's all the time we have on the Peegs Postgame Live. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball coverage you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting community at Peegs.com. Folks, you are not going to be disappointed. Folks, we're out of time, but for now, and for Jeff, Matt, Trevor, and Jared, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.